Why drive a car when you can drive a Jeep? Now there's a basic sales question for you. And this year you'll have one more very good answer to offer your customers. I'm talking about the newest reason to choose a Jeep over a car, the addition of Selec-Trac. As many of you already know, Selec-Trac with automatic transmission comes standard on all 1983 Wagoneers, and it's offered as a highly desirable and saleable option on Cherokee and J10 pickup models. This has got to be one of the hottest features to hit the Jeep line in several years. And I say this because Selec-Trac overcomes one key objection people have had about four-wheel drive and about the combination of two-wheel, four-wheel drive systems, namely the inconvenience of having to get out of the vehicle to change from one operational mode to the other. Let's review Selec-Trac benefits. First, and the one I've already mentioned, is that you no longer have to get out of the vehicle to turn the front wheel hubs. All you have to do is stop, pull down the release pin, and slide the lever to engage two-wheel or four-wheel drive. Chalk up one for convenience. Here's another convenience. You can leave the vehicle in four-wheel drive and forget it all winter long. The special Selec-Trac system has a differential in its transfer case to allow the vehicle to be driven in four-wheel drive any time without worrying about changing back into two-wheel drive. A third convenience. You can remain in four-wheel drive and drive from mud or snow-covered roads onto dry pavement and keep on going without having to shift out of four-wheel drive. In addition, while in four-wheel drive, you can tow a trailer on dry pavement without fear of prop shaft windup and possible damage to the system. A fourth benefit has to do with security, and this is, of course, a major sales point, especially when the family is involved. Maybe drivers won't need four-wheel drive for weeks or even months on end, but when the time comes, when the weather turns bad or in the case of an unexpected emergency, it's nice to know that the four-wheel drive is ready to take over. Number 5 on your list has got to be riding comfort. You actually get a very smooth ride when driving in four-wheel drive. In fact, riding comfort with Selec-Trac is almost identical to regular two-wheel drive systems. The only difference is the added handling security and the pulling power. Last, but maybe not last in terms of your presentation, there's the added real-world fuel economy you get in the two-wheel mode. Here's one instance where a customer can have his cake and eat it too. Now that's a pretty impressive list of Selec-Trac benefits. Yet I think they become even more significant when you look at them in terms of competitors like Blazer, Bronco, Ram Charger, and Suburban. Let me review our competitive advantages. With Selec-Trac, you offer the only automatic four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive combination system available in the United States today. That's right, the only one. Next, no competitive four-wheel drive system can claim superiority to Selec-Trac in its full range of convenience and handling features. Plus, you have a wear and tear advantage over competition when you travel in four-wheel drive at highway speeds. The competitive systems just aren't designed to handle the stress. Finally, foreign competition is limited to only manual hubs on all 4x4 pickups. So, what's the bottom line? Simply this. With Selec-Trac standard on all Wagoneers and optional on Cherokee and the J10 pickup, you truly have the edge when it comes to two- or four-wheel drive. One additional note. When talking to your customers about Selec-Trac, you'll want to be sure they understand that CJs and Scramblers offer only the traditional part-time system with the transfer case lever on the floor. One other thing I should mention, and this has to do with the entire Jeep line for 1983. As you look through the 83 vehicle ordering guide and the handbook, you'll see that there's been some changes in the equipment and options. Basically, they've opted for a more streamlined group of vehicles. What this does is make for more efficient ordering and stocking while simplifying your selling job. Okay? Let's take a moment to review the key points of our Selec-Trac story. Let's move up to our senior Jeeps. We're going to take a ride with Bob Lovelace, who, like Mike Hill, is on top of the Jeep charts every month. We ask him to talk us through his demo ride and to talk about the basic challenge of selling Wagoneers and Cherokees. What I'd like to have you do is see how many of Bob's points are incorporated in your own demo drives.
The way I usually begin a demo ride is first I always like to preferably drive first. I think it's important because you can get into the driver's seat, you can point out some of the features of the car, show the person that you've got 6-way power seats, that you can get comfortable while driving the car, show them that you've got a tilt wheel and tilt it, point out the cruise control, point out the rear window defroster and the power rear window. Point out that this new 1983 Wagoneer has Selec-Trac, which is revolutionary, and nobody else has it but the Jeep Wagoneers and Cherokees. The reason you want to point that out, the reason that's important, is because now that you're inside the vehicle, if you want to go to four-wheel drive, you don't have to get outside the vehicle to do it. Just by the flick of your finger, you can put it into four-wheel drive. Not only do you have the ability to put it into four-wheel drive here, but you also have the ability to put it in low range, and that's right down here on the side of the transmission hump. You can point out the fact that the stereo has a built-in power booster and has 4 speakers with a rear fader control. You can point out that the air conditioning controls are easily accessible for either the passenger or the driver. Point out the fact that they're sitting in leather, real leather, and that they have a nice armrest here in the middle. The fact that this is a very comfortable vehicle to drive, and the fact that they will be comfortable, and if they drive long trips, there will be less fatigue on the long trip, is an important feature. This vehicle, probably the fact that it's comfort is the #1 selling point of this vehicle, is its comfort. You got a four-wheel drive vehicle that is comfortable to drive, and I think that's the most important thing about the Wagoneer Limited. It's also important with a vehicle like this to have an idea of the type of driving you're going to do. By now you should have gotten an idea of talking to the customer what kind of driving they do. If I had a customer that did mostly city driving with this type of vehicle, then I would take them primarily on a city route. If I had a driver that told me that they did a lot of expressway miles but wanted to make sure that in the snowy winters that they had a vehicle they made sure they could get down the expressway with, then I would take the customer out on the expressway and show them exactly how smooth it rides on the expressway. Point out things to them as they're driving. Point out the fact that you've got a vehicle that handles well. If they do city driving, which in this case I'm going to do some city driving, and take them down a moderately bumpy road. Show them that even though the vehicle has four-wheel drive, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to ride rough. That's probably one of the biggest misnomers of four-wheel drive, is that, well, I want to buy a four-wheel drive, but I can't because my wife says that they just ride too rough. Well, tell her that you can buy a four-wheel drive and it will ride nice, and then bring her in and have her bring his wife in and show him the Wagoneer. Take her out for a drive in it, and proof is in the pudding that it is a good riding vehicle. We're going to be going down a fairly bumpy road here in a minute, and you can get an idea of exactly what I'm talking about when I say that the vehicle rides nice and smooth. The other thing that you can point out is the fact that they've got extra insulation throughout the vehicle, particularly in the carpet area. You've got a heavier 18-ounce thick pile carpeting, and that those are also added sound deadening materials in the vehicle as well. Another good point to do is you might start out with the windows down, weather permitting, and after you get going, roll the windows up and show how quiet it gets, because the vehicle not only rides well, but it is also very quiet, and that that is another feature of the vehicle, is its quietness of ride. One of the other things that's excellent about this vehicle is a lot of four-wheel drives, particularly Broncos and Blazers, and you often get people that are looking at Broncos and Blazers will compare the Wagoneer and the Cherokees to them, have a shorter wheelbase, and they're a little bit more stout. And what this does over bumps is it causes kind of a whoop-de-doo effect going over bumps. The whole body kind of whoop-de-doos. Well, you can point out the fact that the Wagoneer and the Cherokee, they don't have the tendency to do that because of the longer wheelbase being about 108 inches long. They won't give you the whoop-de-doo effect that the Broncos and Blazers will. You can emphasize to the customer that a lot of the reason for the better ride and better handling is it's ride engineered, and that you've got a company that just doesn't slap four-wheel drive underneath any old vehicle. That these vehicles were built with four-wheel drive from the ground up, that the vehicle was designed to ride good with four-wheel drive, and it wasn't an afterthought or something added on. I think that's an important thing. You're not dealing with you're not dealing with a company who never built four-wheel drive and then just decided one day that four-wheel drive is becoming popular. Let's start making some four-wheel drive models. You're dealing with a company that has had more innovations in four-wheel drive than anybody else in the world. Another very important point is a lot of the customers that come in on this vehicle are already sold on the vehicle. So your job isn't really necessarily to sell the vehicle, but to just reinforce the fact that this is something that they want, this is something that they will be able to use. It'll be a very practical vehicle for them to own. They're looking for someone to tell them to buy the vehicle. They're sold when they come in, but they need a little extra push, someone to tell them that I think you're making the right decision. I think this will be an excellent vehicle for you, and I think you're going to get many years of service out of it. One of the big things to keep in mind is that you're dealing with a vehicle that's been around for a long time. You're dealing with a company that's been around for a long time, and it has always built four-wheel drive vehicles. The way that you express this to the customer is going to be very important, because nowadays you're dealing with people who are going to educate themselves specifically so they can buy an automobile. And if you emphasize to them, if you convince the customer that Jeep is the expert in four-wheel drives, and they have been building them, and they've built more four-wheel drives than anybody else, and that you're not dealing with somebody who's just come into the market in four-wheel drives in the last 5 or 10 years, that I think that in itself will pretty much tell